Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Five Tier Football Podcast. It's been a little while again, but there have been plans in place. There's always foundations. Foundations have been there, and we're finally starting to get into the thick of it. Finally, with a bit of a plan. The podcast website is pretty much almost done. And there'll be a link for that in the description. We will be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. All the links will be down below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you've found us on any of our social media pages, you can find our links through there for Spotify or Apple Podcasts and all that jazz. But as usual, let's just get straight into things. We're going to have a few new segments and whatnot, a bit of content coming up as well, a bit of different content. Podcast will definitely be a main focus on my point of view from now on, and try and break it up into clips as well to make the content more enjoyable for anyone. Um, unless you prefer watching everything in full flow like I do on Spotify or something like that, then be my guest. As always, I'm joined by the one, the only Brandon Amos. How are you, my friend?
The one, the only. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks. Yeah. What about yourself?
Not too bad, thank you.
Well,
Not
I'm actually in isolation, so I'm not all right. But
too.
tested positive for the Rona. But other than that, we're all good. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Right, so pardon me, it's my phone. So one of the new segments we got coming up, beer of the day. And I can confirm I am drinking a can of Peroni out of a Coors glass. What are you drinking, my friend?
I am drinking the good old, my favourite, Sol.
Sol, love that. Can't beat a bit of Sol.
Best bottled beer I think there is.
To be fair, I back that. I would back that. So before we kick things off and get right into the thick of it, Brandon, you've got some content planned for this channel as well that we're going to be seeing very soon. Do you want to sort of let the viewers know what could be in store?
Yeah. So we want as much interaction, obviously, as possible. So what's the best way of doing that? Tier lists. Get people arguing. We want to hear everyone's opinions. The one coming up probably most notably is going to be sort of one that we're doing on championship fans so far this season, or at least what we've experienced of them. We'll try and get Adam obviously in for that goal angle as well, and maybe Carl from Blues Focus, who knows? But try and get some variety of opinions in there. Maybe start a few arguments. And yeah, just general stuff like that. We want to get everyone involved, and yeah, whatever we can get our hands on, really.
Exactly, lovely stuff. Very excited for that. I can't beat a tier list. I do love my tier list videos whenever I can feature in one. And yeah, we will have guests. I'll make sure there's guests on the podcast. We can call in a few favors, speak to whoever, and yeah, we do have a new member of the team that will be joining us soon. It'd just be deciding what sort of content we get him involved in, and that is Carl from the Blues Focus podcast. If any of you watch that, me and Carl both feature on there, and even Brandon's been on there a few times,
Mm,
quite recently actually. So go check
mm.
it out. Um, and then of course Adam from the Goal Hanger podcast that we used to do manages the Instagram page. So if you ever want to interact with Adam, then go DM him on there, or just go and like the content he posts on there. He posts some great edits, and hopefully you can join us soon, which would be great. As far as Twitter goes, me and Brandon are always on Twitter, so just feel free to interact with us whenever you like. But Brandon is right. Nothing like a good football Twitter debate to get people's feathers rattled. So we'll see. God, I sound like the second tier podcast. But yeah, no, be good to get stuck into things now anyway. And we'll start off with the Premier League. Obviously, it's the pinnacle of English football, the second best league in England, and there's a lot going on this season. I'd say it was different to most Premier League seasons.
Mm.
That's for sure. Because we actually have a title race on our hands for a change.
So
Um,
far,
so far, yeah, one of the teams is slowly starting to slip away with draw after draw. But funnily enough, we'll get straight on to that. So you've got the top three. You've got Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester City. Probably the three teams you expected to be up there this season anyway, let's be honest. Um, but I feel like Chelsea were front runners for quite a while, and they looked like they were favourites going into the Christmas period, and then they've just seemed to have fallen off. Brandon, what do you make of Chelsea's not fall slash decline? It's not bad. It's not like they're losing games, but for a title race, it's not good enough form. A lot of draws.
Yeah, I think what's come to me most notably has been the goals. The goals have gone down a lot. You see Liverpool on 15, Man City on 44, Chelsea on 39, so they're dropping down a little bit. The goals conceded is not too bad, but I think that the most recent game, who did they play most recently? I think they drew 1-1 or something.
Wolves, I believe.
Yeah, oh, there was no with Wolves. Sorry, when it
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, Wolves are a defensive, quite solid team, but yeah, no, there's not been any kind of sign of Lukaku, has there? I don't know if there's actually been an injury or anything, but
Yeah, he is
mm,
currently injured, but there's a constant return dates rumored, and just not quite there yet, unfortunately.
mm,
But I mean, even if you look at their last four results, I'm pretty sure Chelsea are actually out of the even the last five results. Really, pretty
mm,
sure Chelsea are out of the Champions League now. I do believe after a last minute equaliser from Zenit. Um, or they no, they are still in it. I just don't think they finished top. It was one of the two. I remember seeing it on Sky and whatnot. I'll probably get slated for being like, "Oh, do your research on Chelsea's Champions League campaign." Um, I am sorry, people.
yeah,
If
they finished second.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, I remember they bottled first place. They were on course to finish top of the Champions League group they were in. But then last minute goal denied them of that spot. But they're still into the last 16, so that I'm sure that's all that matters for them, really. But anyway, no, let's look at the last four Premier League results, even the last five, to be honest. You've got a very tight win against Watford. I remember Tuchel saying after that he wasn't actually very impressed at all with the performance, despite winning. They weren't up to their usual standard, and then obviously they lost to West Ham.
They led
Um,
twice in that as well, didn't they? So they let that one
yeah,
slip.
yeah, exactly. And obviously the 3-3 against Zenit. Zenit aren't exactly the most world-renowned Champions League team there is in the
I
world.
think I think they rested some for the Zenit game. To be fair,
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got probably the most key result of the lot for me is Chelsea Leeds. Leeds have had a very poor season, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they did fall into that bottom three at some stage with the way they are declining. We will come on to that later on in the video. Obviously, they won the game. They won the game 3-2, but two of those goals were penalties. One of them was a little bit soft, in my opinion. Chelsea Everton 1-1.
mm,
Jared Braithwaite scoring the equaliser
mm,
for Everton. I feel like that's a very poor result,
yeah,
with Rafa
yeah.
Benitez being under pressure as well. And then obviously their most recent 0-0 against Wolves. Obviously good to keep a clean sheet against an informed Wolves away from home, but it's not what they need right now. They need 3 points. So just your results there and just expand on it for me. Like, where do you think Chelsea are going wrong at the moment? Do you reckon it's down to missing Lukaku, or is it something more than that?
Well, I don't think COVID's helping them at the minute. Obviously, their squad's looking a little bit thin, but Lukaku is obviously going to be an issue, whether you're winning games or not. You'd obviously rather him be kind of in the team, and with all the money that they spent on him. Leeds, I think they got away with it in the end, but look, they won. They scored 3 goals. It's enough to win the game. Um, yeah, penalties are a little bit soft, but it is what it is. I think the Everton game really stands out for me because it kind of just shows that they got a bit weak towards the end of the game. Fair, they might well have done enough to win the game, but it's they haven't got the grit to kind of finish the result off. They couldn't get a second goal. They couldn't put 2-3 past them. So what that was doing is it's putting more pressure on them, and I think they were just cracking under that pressure. And the set piece was a good example of that. Defensively, they just kind of fell off. It was quite a late goal as well from Braithwaite, I think, or Branthwaite, sorry. And yeah, it was really easy. He didn't really have to work that set piece very well. The one against Wolves, they were um, I didn't watch the game. I watched snippets for some reason. My stream kept playing up. It wasn't on Sky, was it? So hard to get a glimpse. I know they went 1-0 down at one point, obviously, but Pudence's goal got ruled offside. Wolves is a hard game. I think at least they're not losing the games. West Ham, fair enough. It's their only loss of the season, I think, other than one other. Um, but yeah, it's the I think their lack of goals or the lack of involvement of Lukaku, especially, is putting more pressure on the defense, especially late in games, and that's what happened in the Leeds game as well. I remember Gelhardt got it wasn't late, but it was a relatively late equaliser in the game, and they got away with another penalty. So yeah, I think that they're just putting too much pressure on themselves, and I think the defense is cracking under pressure as a result. I think when squad numbers started to go up again after kind of the COVID crisis that they're in, and the injury crisis in general, they got some bad injuries in there at the minute. I think you'll see them pick up again, but they're already losing ground on Man City and Liverpool. So it's you can say if buts maybes, but at the end of the day, that they're losing distance on them.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone expected sort of Chelsea to be in that title race this season, and yeah, they're in there. But now they're 6 points behind City and 3 points behind Liverpool. And at the moment, you can't see either of those two sides dropping any
Mm.
points, and we will come on to them momentarily. Just to wrap up on Chelsea, my personal opinion, obviously they're having COVID troubles at the moment, injury problems, and as much as I love Thomas Tuchel's style of play, I actually think a lot of that is down to their squad depth isn't amazing. However, he's a very demanding manager and demands the attack to defend more and the defense to attack more. And I think you can see that sort of with how much their goals are actually spread out across the pitch this season. I believe that Reece James is actually their current top goal scorer this season, which says a lot really. Um, so it's a very demanding style of play. It works, but it can cause injury crisis because it's a lot. It's a lot to demand from your team. Everyone's doing everything. I remember an interview with Callum Hudson-Odoi not long ago. Obviously, being a bit in and out of the team, he found under Tuchel, that he was demanded to defend a lot more, whereas the defenders are demanded to attack a lot more. So it's almost like they're swapping roles all the time, and it's so much to ask of a team and ask of a player. And you don't really see that in any of the other sides, to be honest, in the Premier League. Obviously, players will track back and defend, but it just seems to be the Chelsea mould this season in particular, and there does seem to be a big focus on that. And although they started well, I do think it's coming back to biting them on the bum a little bit, to be honest. But we'll see. I wouldn't rule them out. It's still a fantastic squad on paper. But even when you look really at the table, they're 3 wins less than Manchester City, um, which for me says a bit of a golfing class really, and too many draws. But they will need to pick up points against Man City and Liverpool whenever they play them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll move on to second place, Liverpool. I actually think they're having a fantastic campaign this year. I think that their start might have been a little bit up and down, but they're starting to really show how strong they are as a team. Um, Again, I feel like Liverpool's problem is they get a lot of defensive injuries, and then they're always short on numbers in the defensive areas on the pitch, and it can cost them. You look at the Spurs game the other night. Great game. Probably, I'd say they were probably a bit unlucky with the Andy Robertson issue. Um, I apologise if you can hear my dog barking. By the way, the doorbell just went. But yeah, probably a bit unlucky with the Andy Robertson issue, but that's football. It is what it is, and you could sort of make a claim with the whole Harry Kane tackle and that, but you just got to get on with it and move on. They do actually have a good backup in Timiscus in that area, anywho. So yeah, but it's I feel like Liverpool definitely they don't do much work in the transfer window, so that's something they're going to need to look at in January to bolster that squad depth, particularly in defensive areas. What are your thoughts on Liverpool this season so far?
Yeah, started really well. Goals conceded, goals scored all over the place. I think you even got a few cameos in there from Thiago as well, getting some goals. But yeah, I think it's they're still getting the results. Don't get me wrong, despite the Tottenham draw, but the results are getting narrower, is what you're seeing, and that seems to have been somewhat correlating with Van Dijk getting injured. I don't know. But and for me, I don't know. Firmino's back now, so ain't he? But they're still playing Jota up front. But yeah, like a 1-0 against Wolves, a 1-0 against Villa, and tight game against Spurs, which they you could say that they were unlucky in, but I think Spurs actually played really well. But yeah, so I think the results are getting tighter, and I think that, like I said, that's as a result of certain injuries. So they're losing a bit of momentum, but they're still getting the results, which is really good. But I think the key part of the season for Liverpool is when the African Cup of Nations starts and they lose Salah and Mane. I don't know how long it is for. I think it's only for 3-4 games, but
Well,
hey, three, four
there
games can be a lot of difference in this league at the minute.
it can be a big difference in the league in general. However, there is rumour of the AFCON being called off um, due to the COVID situation at the moment. And obviously, with it being mid season, it's a lot of demand on the players as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a few factors coming in there. But funnily enough, as we mentioned a few minutes ago about when Chelsea and Liverpool will play, that's actually on the 2nd of January, so not too far away at all. Big
No.
Super Sunday that'll be. Chelsea can win that game. They're right back in it. Right
Yeah.
back in.
It's all on one game. It's all on one game.
Yeah, I reckon we'll definitely be off to the couch rooms for that one.
Definitely.
But yeah, so no, I completely agree with you on the on Liverpool's form in general. I do want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that Tottenham game because obviously Tottenham aren't having the greatest of seasons, but they really showed some promise in that game and probably deserved to take 3 points. And what do you think, just quickly, sort of how Spurs are beginning to shape under Antonio Conte? Because obviously he's won this league before. He's won plenty of titles. He's a great manager. It's a good appointment for Spurs. Are we finally starting to see what we expected to see when they brought in Conte?
Yeah, I think so. Don't get me wrong. I think with the level of their squad, there's only so far it can take them. Well, without signings, you got to think of the team that he inherited at Chelsea. It's much better than this team he's got at Tottenham. So so that you've got to obviously take that into consideration. But I thought they were actually really good against Liverpool. It was a really entertaining game. I think a draw was probably just about fair. Don't get me wrong, got to rub the green with some decisions. I think they were lucky not to have a penalty against them from the push on Jota. I think they were lucky that Kane was still on the pitch. So so they rode the luck a little bit, but I think they earned their luck. I think they all worked really hard. I think one of the key things that has been pointed out by pundits is the like the running distances compared to before Conte came in, something much higher. And I thought Ali played really well in that game as well. So I think Tottenham are on the up, but I don't even think they'll get near Arsenal at this point, to be honest. Arsenal obviously following the top three at a bit of a distance, but they're just behind. But yeah, I think Spurs, if they can sneak into top six this season, I think they've done well. But I think they need a lot of investment in their squad. They're probably going to lose Kane in the summer. Let's be honest. So and they
Yeah,
obviously want to keep hold of people like Son. So it'll be an interesting season for him to see where. I don't know if it's as much about where they finish, but how much progress they can make performance wise, and turning getting the fans back over. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, back onto Liverpool. It can be one or two games that slips up the title in this league, and I think even this draw against Tottenham, you're seeing there's a bit of a what 3 points between them and Man City now, is there? Yeah, three
yeah.
points. So that's already so that they could have gone top. So or level. I can't even do the maths. But like just saying, the games like this is the points in them. It's probably a good point earned away at Tottenham. It's a tough place to go, but you also got to look at it from the other perspective where they're dropping points to Man City.
Completely agree with that. I think it's nice that we're starting to see some progress with Spurs under Conte. They do actually have quite a few games in hand, do Spurs. So if they do start to win those games in hand, then they could definitely chase a top four spot. And I think that'll be Conte's dream, dream sort of I suppose finish really if they could nick that fourth spot.
Mm.
Probably a bit unrealistic with the squad he's got in his hands. But I did find his comment the other day about Eric Dyer quite funny. That Eric Dyer could potentially be one of the best centre backs in the world. Not words I thought I'd hear anybody's mouth in my lifetime. Uh,
Definitely not.
but no, I look forward to seeing what he can get out of him. To be honest,
Mm.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then back to Liverpool, they just need to keep winning games. And although their results have become tighter recently, and they're not running away with every game, just so long as you're winning games, it doesn't matter how you do it. Just so long as you win those,
Yeah,
those.
and Liverpool have got that grit in them. To be fair, you know we've seen it before. Um, with the year that they actually won the title, you know, Man City took them quite far. Was it Man City? Yeah, I think it was. Took them quite far, didn't they? And I think that's probably something what Chelsea lack. I think Chelsea will get back into the form that they were at the start of the season. It's just whether it'll be too late. That's my only
Yeah,
concern.
I mean, we've already seen how quick this league can change already because Chelsea were quite comfortable at the top. But no, it's changed pretty much over a couple of weeks. So no, good stuff from Liverpool at the moment. Just need to keep up that form. They actually play in the League Cup tonight against Leicester in the quarter final. Interesting to see what they do with that. It'd be nice to see somebody else win the League Cup that isn't Manchester City for a change. But we'll see. Speaking of Manchester City, what a season they are having. Really showing why they're champions. I mean, I've still got the chant going around my head from when they battered Newcastle from that away end. That's why we're champions, because that is literally the case. They played like champions. Um, and for me, I think they're well on course to win the Premier League this year. But you know they do have a bit more competition this year, and they're going to have to win those big games because I think they have no problem beating teams that they should beat. But it's just those big matches, those big 6 pointers that I always feel like City seem to falter in a bit, where they might give things away. But let's not take that conversation take away from their results recently. I mean, they've kept 3 clean sheets from the last 3 games, and they've scored 12 goals from their last 3 games. That
Mm,
is a crazy stat. Obviously,
impressive.
seven of those coming against Leeds, um, which I'm sure will bring a smile to your face, Brandon. But the evidence is undeniable. I feel like the only place where Man City is stumbling at the moment, funnily enough, is the Champions League. Which, to be honest, if I wanted Manchester City to win anything, it would be the Champions League because they've never done it. Um, a poor result against Leipzig, but that was probably mostly down to the red card.
Yeah.
But overall, the main thing is they're well on track in the Premier League, and nothing's really stopping them at the moment. They're beating good sides. I mean, even in the Champions League, it wasn't that long ago they beat PSG at home either. So they just keep winning. They're beating good sides. For once, they're not actually going to win the League Cup this year because they lost on penalties to West Ham. So that'll
Ah.
be interesting. Um, but yeah, no, overall, you can't fault Man City. Every single game, they're averaging like 3 or 4 goals. And most of them, they're keeping clean sheets as well. And that is the side that will win you the Premier League. Now, I see a lot of claims about Pep Guardiola's Manchester City being being the greatest Premier League side of all time. Personally, I don't agree with that. What are your thoughts on that, Brandon? Bold statement.
Well, I think they've got to be up there, haven't they? Just given
They've got
on.
to be up there, but I just don't feel like they're the greatest.
Well, we'll never know until the greats play against each other, which obviously ain't going to happen. But
That, no, you might see that at like a Legends 11 game in like 20 years' time or something like that.
maybe. But nah, for me, Man City are up there. I think it's the way that they've won the title is obviously different circumstances to other great Premier League teams. For some reason, they just put 7 past every single team. But I think with Man City, they almost go under the radar a little bit because you're just like, oh, Man City, they're playing Wolves today, they're going to win. Or they're playing Watford, they're going to win. And you almost kind of forget. And then all of a sudden, you look at the table and they're 6 points clear, and you're like, where's that come from? Because you just expect them to. They just win every week because they just do. Whereas Liverpool win every single week. I don't recall when Man City overtook Liverpool or Chelsea. Like I just don't recall it happening because they just you don't like I say they go under the radar a bit just because you know they're going to win every week. So
It wasn't long ago they were third. And
yeah, no, it's weird, and they're not even doing this with a recognised striker, are they? Well, Jesus has been playing a bit more recently, but
exactly. I mean, this is a Manchester City side who not that long ago lost at home to Crystal Palace,
yeah, exactly.
and that says a lot.
They've lost more games than Liverpool this season, so
Yeah, precisely. I mean, yeah, obviously you go back to when they actually played Liverpool. They that game finished 2-2. That was a great game. But you could probably argue actually that City deserved to beat Liverpool that day. I thought
maybe.
City were a much better
Well,
side.
well, they
Um,
got a big result away at Chelsea, didn't they, early on in the season? They won there, so it's yeah,
was
like you said before, it's just on the big games. You expect them to put 7 past Watford, no offense. You expect them to put 7 past Wolves. It's just
the 6 pointers.
the 6 points against Liverpool, against Chelsea, against Leicester. They struggle with against a lot in the recent seasons. Arsenal could look dangerous this year. I know they already played them at the start, but they've come on leaps and bounds since Anata's side. So it's it'll be an interesting watch, but I can't see them slowing down at this rate, to be honest.
Completely agree. So no, Manchester City well on course to where they want to be. Just a steam train. Nothing's stopping them right now. So let's take a look at a couple of other teams. Quick mentions. We'll keep it short and sweet. Arsenal, like we just said, won last night in the League Cup against Sunderland. Fair play to Sunderland. Brought a lot of fans and actually played quite well. And you wouldn't have thought they were a League One side. So no, credit where credit is due. But Arsenal are really starting to look like they're just starting to look like a team. I
Mm.
feel like that's what they've missed for so long. It's things started to look bleak under Arteta, and you just thought, oh, okay, here we go again. They've never recovered since Wenger left at all. But it does seem like they're finally on some route, and most of that is done through their own youth academy, not even through transfers that they made. I mean, you look at transfers that they made. Nicolas Pepe, that went well. Um, for the amount of money they spent, he's not given the return needed. In fairness to him, he did have a good performance last night, but it's not in the Premier League, so it doesn't really count.
Mm.
But no, you've got to look at some of those youngsters. Obviously, Saka is one of the standout names. Emil Smith Rowe, Nketiah, Martinelli, Balogun. But the next Jack Wilshere, if not better, Patino. I think his name Charlie Patino. Is it? Is it?
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many posts about him on Rising Ballers on Instagram, and I've seen Jack Wilshere talk about him on Talk Sport. Um, but I've not properly seen him in action. He looks about 12, but he
Yeah.
certainly doesn't play like he's 12, that's for sure. And obviously netted the final goal of the game last night
Yeah.
to completely kill off the game whatsoever, which will do leaps and bounds for his confidence for such a young lad. So it'll be exciting to see what he does next, that's for sure. But no, I just feel like it's it's refreshing for Arsenal to see that they are doing well because of their academy. What are your
Mm.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, completely agree. I think uh, Saka kind of continuing on from his form from last season and through the World Cup, but this season he's just got something different about him. I think, to be fair, it helps with the players around him having a good year as well. People like Emil Smith Rowe and Gabriel Martinelli. That's his name, right?
Yes.
Forgot his first name was, but yeah, Martinelli looks a different animal as well. By the way, recently, don't get me wrong, their recent results they've played Leeds. I think the way Leeds play, the fact that they come out and they try and press you to put you under pressure, I think that suits them because I think what Arsenal are really good at doing is playing through the thirds at pace. You saw that against Southampton as well. I think it was their first goal. Players like Emil Smith Rowe and Martinelli and Saka, they're better when they've got space to run at people. Whereas, again, I think if a side was to stay really compact against them, maybe in a deep block as well, they'd struggle a little bit more. I don't think they'd put 4 past them like they did Leeds. And I think you'd see them struggling games like that. But I think the opposition they've played recently has really suited them. I think even Leicester as well. Teams that will try and beat them, basically, not teams that will be like, oh, if a team will turn up at Arsenal, say Burnley, good old Burnley, turn up at Arsenal and play for a point, unless they don't concede from a set piece or something or an early goal. I think the Arsenal would struggle a lot more against a team like that than they would against like a Leeds or a West Ham, for example. But to be fair, as good as West Ham have been this season, I thought they'd give Arsenal a really good game, and I think Arsenal absolutely trampled all over them. So they're a hard one to judge. I might be wrong, but yeah, players like Emil Smith Rowe and Saka and Martinelli, they're a joy to watch so far this season. Even players like Tommy Asu, who I had absolutely no idea who he was before the season started,
Same, mate.
looks really good. Tierney looked good. I think Tavares, when he's coming at left back for Tierney's looked really good as well. Gabriel and White. I know we criticised White in a video. I can't remember whether if it was on this channel or if it was on Project Football, but we kind of criticised the signing of White. Not necessarily criticised the signing of White, but paying 50 million for him. We thought it was too much at the time, but he looks like an absolute player next to Gabriel, and obviously Ramsdale as well. So it's just a shame about the issues with Aubameyang, but I think they're coming on a lot as a team. Like you say, they're growing as a team, and I think they'll only go up from here. They'll do well to stay in the top 4, but yeah, we'll see how it goes with Arsenal.
To be honest, I think they're better off without Aubameyang. I think they spent too much time relying on Aubameyang, and it'd be refreshing to see an Arsenal side without Aubameyang in
I
it.
agree. I think and Lacazette as well. To be honest, I know he's
Lacazette,
scored it. I think he has scored in the last few games, hasn't he? But it'd be really good to see someone like Balogun or Nketiah come through now, and all of a sudden that kind of academy-ish front 4 just kind of absolutely thriving. I don't know whether it'll happen. They might have to sign a marquee striker, but yeah, there's still a lot to improve with Arsenal, but they look really exciting.
This is, for me, the closest Arsenal have been to recovering from the Wenger departure.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the closest they've come. And can we just roll it back a little bit? Probably 2 months ago, if not less, Arteta was on the ropes.
It was. He's found the formula.
And one win against Norwich, and all of a sudden they're now in the top 4. A few weeks later, and that's, let's not throw any shade at West Ham as such, because they've had a great season so far this season. Probably dipped in form recently. They are overachieving in general, so I don't think they should be disappointed by that. For me, West Ham, I think they're going to end up finishing 6th or 7th. I do think Spurs and United will catch up. But that's all I'm going to say on West Ham. Moving on to Manchester United before we look at sort of the bottom half of the table. How do you feel about Ralph Rangnick's Manchester United so far from what you've seen of them? Because obviously you look, they've got 2 games in hand on Arsenal. They win those 2 games, they go above Arsenal by a point. However, my personal opinion, from what I've seen from Manchester United so far under Ralph Rangnick, although the results are there, I'm not that impressed. I think they've got lucky. They got a bit of a rub of the green, particularly against Norwich, which is not a pleasing statement to hear if you're a Manchester United fan. What are your thoughts on Rangnick's Man United so far?
Yeah, well, he is only interim, obviously, but I think what Ragnick's had to do is to stable the ship a little bit. Obviously, when he's come in, they've only scored one goal a game. Against Palace, it looked a lot better. I didn't watch the young boys game, obviously, but it's in the Champions League and they were already through, weren't they? So I'm assuming that they didn't play the strongest team. And yeah, like you say, the Norwich game they were probably a little bit lucky. So it's I think yeah, like you just said, that Man United spelling was conceding goals, and at the minute they've only conceded. Well, they haven't conceded, sorry, since he's come in the Premier League anyway. So I guess it's working, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they'll develop over time, but I don't know. It's hard to judge. It's just a small sample size, isn't there, at the minute that we've got to go off. I think Norwich are, to be fair, looking a lot more kind of rejuvenated under Dean Smith now. Because I think Norwich is a squad. I don't think they're good enough to stay up, but I think they're good enough to make a fight of it rather than it almost being like with Norwich. You almost think it's kind of like they'd given up, but
Yeah.
he's
The
got he's kind of
usual Norwich.
yeah, but he's kind of
I am
given him a bit of
excited
fight
to
now.
I am excited to dig into that bottom half of the table, to be
Yeah,
fair,
yeah,
because it is heating up. Obviously Norwich are bottom of the table right now, but one win and they're out. So
exactly.
it's that'll be an interesting conversation for shortly. But I agree with you on Ralph Ragnick. I think he has studied the ship results wise, and obviously it's a results business, so who cares? If Blues were winning games and we weren't playing well, I really wouldn't care. So if I imagine the Man United fan base will be split on that, that sort of style of play and results. For me personally, as a football fan, I only care about results. Style of play, if it's good, it's a bonus. If it's not, I'm really not that fussed. Um, I love a bit of shithousery myself. So, Man United, just suck it up, get on, just enjoy the ride, whatever it may be. But I definitely think they've got a chance of pushing for that top four if they keep the current form they've got going. However, it would be easier to judge them if they were a little bit more convincing and didn't have to rely on penalties at Carrow Road. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Moving on, moving on. Just a quick shout out to Wolves, who have had a fantastic season so far and really picked up form under
Yep.
Bruno Lager. Obviously, some results not so great at the start of the season, but they've definitely started to come into form recently. And Leicester City, who are probably the underachievers of the season so far, but they do have a few games in hand to get themselves back up there. Aston Villa were obviously down in like 16th when Gerrard took over. They're now 10th, unfortunately. So that is what it is. And fair play, Gerrard has actually brought some entertaining football down to Villa Park. And I like Stevie G, and I want him to do well. I just wish it wasn't with Aston Villa, but I am going to try my best to not be biased whatsoever and just enjoy the ride, if that's even doable. Um, so let's get into that sort of. We'll go. Let's be honest. Everton aren't going to get relegated. Let's go into that bottom six region. Southampton, obviously, they are 6 points clear of the drop zone. However, at times I do feel like they play like a relegation side.
Maybe.
Um, and they've actually picked up less wins than Watford, who are below them. So I do believe they are firmly in that scrap. But before we took into some of those other sides, I want to go back to Leeds. We did mention them earlier.
Hmm.
I made the bold statement of saying that I do think they're going to fall this season, and they could finish in that bottom three come the end of the season. And Bielsa is under pressure. What are
Mm.
your thoughts on that?
Um, I don't think Leeds will fall. I think what he needs to do is steady the ship because Leeds are suffering from a lot of injuries at the minute. to a lot of key players. If they had fucking Ireland at centre back in the last game, so it's not going to go well. And you got Tyler Roberts playing in centre mid. Tyler Roberts is a striker. They've not got Bamford, so it's they've got a lot of issues at the mid leagues, and I'm not gonna say it's impossible that they could fall, but I think when they get injuries back, they will start to pick up. They need an easy run of games when that happens. But what Bielsa's critics are kind of saying is that because of the injuries, he hasn't adapted the way his team is playing to get results. So he's stuck with fair enough. He's stuck with the same kind of principles, stuck with the same kind of style of play. He doesn't want to change that. But I also think when you're asking Ireland to play centre back, and you've got Dallas over here, and it's all here, there, and everywhere. There's not even bloody Pascal Struijk to fill in, for God's sake. So I think when you've got issues injury wise like that, you have to at least kind of take your medicine a little bit. And because the Premier League is ruthless, if you aren't getting the results, it can very quickly change, and that's what we're seeing now. But he's not going to do it. Let's face it, he's not going to do it. So as soon as the injuries come back, the sooner the better. But the longer it's going to last, the longer this is going to go on for, and pressure will build. It's natural. So I think Bielsa has to take his medicine and play for results a little bit more, at least until these his key players kind of get back in. But he's not gonna. So it's a hard one to judge with Leeds. It all just depends on injuries, honestly.
Yeah, I second that really. I think it's a results business, so sometimes you have to play against the way you might want to play. I feel like I say that to Blues a lot. I apply that statement to Blues a lot, unfortunately. But yeah, no, with Leeds, obviously the injuries don't help, and they can change a season. But with that many players out, to be honest, I'd actually say Bielsa's style of play is the closest you can get to Tuchel at Chelsea. That constant demand from everybody, that hard work. Obviously you demand a lot from any team anyway, but those two particular managers demand a lot more than some other teams do. And sometimes it can be too much and can cause injuries like that. Leeds have been built on a foundation of a hard-working team. Unfortunately, right now, the team they are fielding into matches is a championship side.
Yeah, well,
If
I'll
that,
walk through some of these for you. Rodrigo is out until January. Bamford should be back kind of any time now. You've got Pascal Struijk is out. You've got Liam Cooper is out. You've got Calvin Phillips, Jamie
Dan James,
Shackleton, Dan James, Harrison, Lorente. These are all starters. I think
they're
how
all
many of these?
starters.
Two,
All starters.
five,
So you do
six,
have to feel
seven,
sorry for Bielsa. In
seven,
fairness.
eight, maybe even nine of them are all first team starters.
That's pretty much a whole team. And you have to, obviously, freak events can happen in football, but you have to raise questions of why that's happened, and try
Maybe
and
it's
address that
the
issue.
physical demand.
Yeah,
Maybe, but it might not be. They might just be really unlucky. We don't know. But
you can't put a finger on things like this, but you
no.
can certainly consider all the possible options, that's for sure. So, Brandon, Southampton, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Southampton. So up and down, it's unbelievable. You can't really predict them, to be honest. Um, I'd say as probably as close as you can come to mid-table mediocrity in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I, obviously they're not far away from that drop zone, being 6 points clear. But there are teams below them that have games in hand.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I'm never really impressed by Southampton whenever I watch them play personally. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on them?
I think they've got good players. They signed Armstrong, who, to be fair, has looked like his goal tally is not amazing, but his goal threat is definitely there to see. I think it's maybe him trying to do. He's not got much help. Maybe it's been a big contributor to that. They've obviously got Che Adams still. They've got James Ward-Prowse, who bagged a free kick against Palace the other week. They've got good players. I think it's just it's hard to put a finger on it. Maybe they concede too many goals. I think, obviously, Hasenhüttl being coming from the German team, he's got obviously that kind of German pressing mentality about. I don't know if he actually is German. Is he Austrian? Maybe I think something
He's
like
one
that.
of the two. One of the
Yeah,
two.
but he's come from that way, right?
He's
So
come from Germany. Yeah.
whenever they come over, they all kind of come over with the same kind of pressing game mentality, and I just don't think Southampton have got the overall team to do it. I think they've got good players. Ward-Prowse is a good player. Adams is a good player. Armstrong is a good player, but I think maybe they lack some quality in defence as well. They obviously lost Vestergaard. They lost Bertrand. They just need a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think that's only going to come from just deals in the transfer window.
I feel like you have to question though. Ralph Hasenhüttl has been there for a few seasons now, at least 2 or 3. I think it's his 3rd season this season. What has he actually changed
Exactly.
there?
Exactly. He's not. The team hasn't progressed at all. The club hasn't progressed at all.
Exactly. If
They got
anything,
they
they've
got knocked out
moved
by bloody Frank Lampard's Derby from the FA Cup, for God's sake.
precise. If anything, I feel like Southampton have moved downwards. Since he's come in, maybe they're still a similar spot, but right now, 15th place, 3 wins out of 17 games.
It's not good.
It's not good. It's not. And I think Ralph has had enough time to have a real crack at this job.
Maybe.
And I personally, I'm not seeing much progress.
No, I'm of the same opinion as you, mate. I'd
I,
love to hear any kind of Southampton views on it, but
do you know what? I was just about to say the same thing. I'd love to hear Southampton's fans' thoughts on this.
yeah, get them in the tags. But I don't know if they've necessarily gone down, but I think their team has got better. How has it though? Maybe it got better and then got worse.
I was going to say, it looks like it's going to get better and then doesn't.
Maybe then, but yeah, he's had a wild crack at it now. Might be wrong, but I think they need to maybe look elsewhere and think about letting someone else have a crack at it. I don't know how long's left on his deal, because did he not sign he might have signed another longer term deal, to be fair, a couple of years ago.
Who knows?
I can't remember. I'll have to look into that one. But yeah, me personally, I don't think there's enough progress coming from Hasenhüttl there. I think there's been signs here and there throughout the last 3 years, but there's not been enough for me, like I say, and I think it's time to give someone else a new crack at it.
For me personally, I think Ralph Hasenhüttl is overrated and has not been a flop, but flirted with that term.
He's been steady. I think he's been steady. They've been through really bad patches of form. You know what would really help Southampton, to be fair? For someone to twat them 8-0 or something. Because whenever they seem to lose 8-9-0, they always seem to go on a run.
Yeah, they do. They do.
They need someone to beat them 8-9-0.
Well,
that's what the problem is.
Man City's pretty good at that, if you ask Leeds.
They're playing Liverpool next, I think, actually. Or is that
Leeds?
Well,
there we are.
That might be Leeds, actually. I might be wrong, actually. That might have been... I was just looking at Leeds a minute ago.
Either way, they'll play him at some point. So, moving
West
on.
Ham. Maybe West Ham. They could lose to West Ham.
West Ham could do that, to be fair, yeah. Moving on to the bottom 4. It's certainly close down there. We have Ranieri's Watford, Dyche's Burnley, Howell's Newcastle, and Smith's Norwich. To be honest, out of those 4 teams, the team I've actually been most impressed with recently is actually Dean Smith's Norwich City. I feel like they've got themselves well back in sort of the frame of the scrap, if you will, because they were obviously doing their usual. They were falling away from it all. But Dean Smith has got them back fighting. And there are some decent players in there. And although they're not turning over mad results, they're 3 points off safety as things stand. Obviously, Watford do have a game in hand. Burnley actually have 2 games in hand on Norwich. Whereas Newcastle, Norwich actually have a game in hand on Newcastle. There's so many played and unplayed games. That's probably due to COVID recently.
Yeah.
But that bottom four is shaping up nicely. Burnley are probably sat for me in the best position, despite only winning one game all season.
But I think Burnley are in trouble, to be honest with you. I don't know where their goals are coming from.
This is
Because
the closest they've come, I think.
they've a lot of seasons recently they've been relying on Barnes, and Barnes just isn't hitting it at all. I don't think Pope's even on the level he once was. I think he's their top scorer this. I'd love to know who their top scorer is this year. Carry on while I have a look.
Yeah, no, just in general, I think Burnley. I think it's Maxwell Cornet, to be
It
fair.
is. Maxwell Cornet's got 5, and then you've got
Who,
Chris
in
Wood.
fairness, I can't lie, has been an unreal signing. And if they did get relegated, he wouldn't be in the championship for long.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah. Maybe so. And you got Chris Wood. Well, it's not. It's really not good. I'll be honest. It's
Take
not good.
take Maxwell Cornet out of that side and wear a Burnley.
Yeah. Well, you've got Cornet on 5. You've got Wood on 3. You've got me on 2
For me personally, yeah,
for
ironic.
Bentley.
Um, for me personally, I think Burnley, if they didn't sign Cornet, would be bottom of the table. I
Probably.
do firmly believe they'd be below Norwich. I mean, Norwich
Probably.
have won more games. Norwich have won more games than Burnley. Burnley have just picked up a few more draws. They're only a point ahead of Norwich. Yes,
Yeah.
they have the games in hand. Do I think Burnley are probably going to win those games in hand? Probably not.
Hmm.
I do think if you were to ask me that bottom three right now, who do I think is most likely to be relegated out of that bottom three currently? I would actually say Burnley, despite
Yeah.
them being 18th. I could see Norwich getting out of it, and I could see Newcastle getting out of it. Only reason I could see Newcastle getting out of it is because of the mass amount of funds they have to spend this January.
Mm.
Um, I do doubt Eddie Howe, though. I don't think that was a good appointment, to be honest, for the
I dis-
direction they want to
I
go.
disagree. I disagree. I think Howe was a good appointment. I think it
Oh,
wasn't
go on,
the
go on.
kind of like, oh, Newcastle, we've got 500 million to spend in January. Let's get Pep Guardiola or something.
Let's get Eddie Howe in, who all of his Bournemouth transfers have pretty much been flops. You could probably make an argument for Jefferson Lerma, and that's it.
Nah, I think you're being harsh. I think Howe will do a good job. I think, well, it depends on the money he's got. He might not do well. I might look like an absolute mug. There's me predicting Leeds to get a top 6 finish at the start of the season, but but yeah, back on Burnley anyway. I think they're still a solid unit. Well, relatively, they've had a tough run of fixtures, but I think the goals is the problem for them. You know, you've like I said, you've just named the 3 there, and then you've got Tarkowski, Vidra, and Matt Loted all on one. So it's not looking good goals wise for them. I think you kind of have to. Yeah, their goals conceded aren't great, but because they've got nothing in the forward lines at the minute, or even in the midfield, it's kind of all just coming back at them. So yeah, Burnley also, I think they are the lowest scorers in the league as well. I might be wrong. Yeah. Wait, sorry, I can't even read that right. No, Norwich are, but they're down there. They're down there. So it's clear to see what the problem is with Burnley.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to ask you a question, right?
Mhm.
From that bottom 4, including Watford, who is the most likely team to go down to the Championship for you?
I still think it's Norwich, to be honest.
Still think it's
Simply,
Norwich.
I still think it's Norwich, simply just because he's steady. Like you say, Dean Smith. We've seen since Dean Smith has come in, he's steadied them. Right, they've scored 1 goal in the last 6 games.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
think that's a fair
fair
point.
enough. They got a couple of draws in there, blah blah, and their 1 goal was against Newcastle. So
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. I think they have been
Timu
unlucky in the last
Pookie
2 games as
Worldy.
well. Yeah, they have been unlucky in the last 2 games. Don't get me wrong, but like still starting Plachetta, like I don't see it. Cantwell's not performing. I don't know who Sorensen is. I think Kabak's come in and done well at the back. I think Williams has come in and done well at left back. Gibson as well is doing quite well. So goals conceded, that they're not amazing yet, but they're sharpening up a little bit. Gilmore's looked really good as well. But other than that, the forward line, you associate a championship Norwich scoring goals for fun, right? They're not doing that in the Prem. So
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it could all turn for all these teams. It could just turn around with the blink of an eye. You never know. But for me at the minute, I still see Norwich finishing bottom. I think they've just got.
January will be huge for these four clubs. Obviously, Newcastle sit there with a comfortable advantage.
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
For
and
me.
for me personally, I could still see Southampton falling into it, but I feel like it's possibly unlikely. Um, Maybe down to injury. I do think Leeds will get relegated this season. I actually want. I want to hear Leeds fans' thoughts on that. A lot of people might disagree with me. When they get their players back from injury, they may turn things around.
I
But
think they will.
from a personal experience, I've seen this happen before where a lot of injuries can relegate a team. Not down to them necessarily being a bad team, but just so many injuries. It can happen. It can happen.
For me, if anything relegates Leeds, it will be like what I mentioned before: the not taking the medicine, still trying to perceive the same play style when you've not got the players available to do it. I think if
Exactly.
anything relegates Leeds, it'll be that, and that will come from. I know, look, he's a great manager. Don't get me wrong, but it's stubbornness. It simply is stubbornness. Whether he just doesn't know how to do it, fair enough. I'm sure he does. He's a good enough coach, but I think it's stubbornness, and I think they
Okay.
need to learn from that quickly. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, when the players come back in, absolutely fair enough. But I think their confidence is shot at the minute. They conceded 4 goals like pretty much every game, so they conceded 7 against Man City, so it's not looking good. And even when the players come back, I was saying this to you actually on Blues Focus once. When I think I was talking to you, I think it was after the Coventry game when you drew 0-0, and we were saying about the injuries at the minute, and that's the reason for your performances dropping. It's the same with Leeds at the minute, but when, like I said to you, when the injuries come back, it doesn't necessarily mean the problems are going to disappear, because like I said, Leeds' confidence at the minute is absolutely shot, and teams are pouncing on that. Arsenal pounced on it the other day. So
It's tougher than people think to turn around a squad morale. I think the perfect example of that is Peterborough's away form, and we will touch on that later on.
Peterborough in general.
Yeah, just
Well,
Peterborough.
I think Bielsa just doesn't seem the sort of type to motivate that kind of changing room when it's absolutely on the floor. Because you even
The
think
bloke
about.
can't speak English. He still can't speak English. I can't imagine he's going to go in there and do a full-on Neil Warnock. You gotta fucking die for 3 points. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, it's
Unless he
not.
says
That's so yeah.
Argentinian.
This is what I said. I'm not saying Leeds are immune to relegation or anything, but I think they've got a lot of work to do. It's not going to just be like injuries come back like that. So
Yeah, exactly. So before we wrap up on that, one quick fire question to you, Brandon. I'll give you
hit
my
me.
answer first.
Go on.
Four teams: Watford, Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich. Which one of those four teams is staying in the division? More than likely Norwich, because you've already said you think Norwich will get relegated.
Yeah.
For me, looking at those remaining teams, depending, fully depending on how Newcastle spend in January, because they have the money to bring in some great players.
Yeah.
If they do that successfully, I will back Newcastle to stay up. If
Yeah.
they don't do that successfully, I would back Watford to stay up.
I'm gonna back Watford to stay up
So you
because
believe Newcastle will go down?
I don't know. It'll be tight. It'll be tight. But the only reason I say Watford is I think their team spirit at the minute is really good. Their team morale. Ranieri's got a really good pedigree of getting results in this division. Um, except for he got sacked from Leicester, except for that one, and Fulham. Actually, never mind. I've not made a very good point there, have I? But I think they look all right at the minute. Dennis is bagging in goals. King looks really good. They look quite solid. Yeah, they might struggle here and there, but I think in general Watford will be all right. I think, to be fair, I think you've got a bigger chance of someone like Southampton or Leeds getting sucked in below them.
I could agree to that. To be honest, I actually could agree to that. I mean, they've Watford have actually won more games than Leeds and Southampton. So No reason why not. I mean, Brighton are sat 13th, Watford are sat 17th, and they've won the same amount of games.
All just going to
Chris,
depend on what Newcastle do, I think.
yeah, Crystal Palace are sat 11th, Watford are sat 17th, won the same amount of games. It's just about those draws. It's
Mm.
about picking up those results. To me, Watford only having one draw all season, that
Mm.
says to me a risk-taking team, a team
Yeah,
that takes
they are.
risks
Yeah, they are. Totally.
and fights for probably 3 points every single game. Like obviously most teams do, but you get to a point a lot of the time where you will settle for a point. I
I
think
think they've let games slip away from them as well, though. Like the Brentford game, they
Brent.
let
I
that
was
slip.
about to say the
They
Brentford
were
game
in
was
complete
perfect
control of
example.
that. One goal went in and their heads went. They conceded a sloppy goal,
For
and
me,
the
Truth
heads went.
Dekong, despite being a great YouTuber and copy podcaster, is not good enough for the Premier League. Straight up. Every time I watch Truth Dekong play in this division, he is not good enough. I would like to hear Watford fans' opinion on that, but for me personally, that even that foul against Brentford to give them a penalty it was rookie, it was schoolboy stuff really to watch. It was a
Yeah.
needless foul that didn't need to happen, and I just don't back him, and it doesn't surprise me that Ranieri's already looking at centre backs. I know they're linked with a centre back that Ranieri played with, not played with, managed at Sampdoria.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. It's
Well, they did.
escaping me.
They signed that Pollock lad as well. I think from League One. I know he's only come from League One, I think, but it'd be good to look at. I wouldn't tell Trustick on this, by the way, because he might lamp me. Bit of a unit, but
I'm
yeah,
sure. I'm sure Trustek goes out of his way to watch 5 tier football, every day.
mate.
Project
Well, to
Football
be
goal
fair,
hanger.
we've ruined any chance of a collab, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
But yeah, yeah, it depends on Newcastle. I can't say on what Newcastle are going to do because they might be like, oh, it's January, so we're not gonna splash the gun because splashing the gun in January isn't necessarily a good thing because it's mid-season. So uh, you, you just don't know. With Newcastle, it's very much the unknown at the minute. I think it'd be better if they could stay up with spending minimal amounts of money, and then when it comes to January, them having the flush out then and bringing all the players in. So I think in January they shouldn't go gung ho. I think they should bring in players that they know are going to help them stay in the league.
Okay, so just quickly before we wrap up, very, very quickly, two players Newcastle have been linked with already. Aaron Ramsey and Kieran Trippier. You make those two additions. Do you think Newcastle get out the bottom three?
No, no, I
No,
don't think that's enough. I think
I'd agree with that.
I don't want them to go out and what I'm saying is I don't want them to go out and spend 100 million on players that are good on paper or whatever. Like I can't even think of any examples, but I just wanted to make signings that I know are going to keep them in the division. Trippier would be a good. I'm not saying they won't be good signings. Trippier and Ramsey could be really good signings, but I think they need more than just them two. I think they need more. But
It's probably up front that's the biggest problem, in my opinion. Obviously,
maybe,
Callum Wilson's good at this level, but I think he needs a strike partner.
yeah, I think it's all over the park. To be fair, mate, I think it's all over the park. They need additions, but yeah, it's hard to make a judgment on Newcastle at the minute. We'll just have to see how January unfolds. So ask me in
Well,
February.
exactly, yeah. Well, they're not short of the cash to bring in some decent players, so we'll have to watch this space and see what happens. But
Yeah,
that wraps up the Premier League show. It's been enjoyable talking about the Prem teams. I am sorry for all the mid-table teams that I probably didn't touch on.
yeah.
Um, so your Brentfords and your Brightons. Brighton fans, stop booing Graham Potter, and Brentford fans, enjoy the ride. You're having a great season, and that's all I have to say on those lot. Let's get straight into the championship show.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. It's Tom. Hope you're all well and enjoying your Christmas. If you did enjoy this episode, please drop a like. It'd be much appreciated, more than you know. And I'll also be breaking up the Premier League show into clips to make it easier to view. Also, as you'll notice, we haven't gone straight into the Championship football. because we're doing a separate show for the championship, and that should be uploaded soon. So keep your eyes peeled for the championship show. I hope you like my Birmingham City pajama hoodie as well. Let me know down in the comments what presents you got for Christmas. And yeah, hope you all enjoy yourselves. And the championship show will be out soon, followed by the League One, League Two, and the National League shows. So keep an eye out, and I'll be back with you as soon as possible. But yeah, stay safe, and just enjoy your Christmas. See you in a bit.